Good evening. I wanted to take a few moments tonight and share some remembrances of 11 September 2001. I'd like to thank all of those of you who joined me in the social media silence today from 8:46 a.m. until 10:28. I was speaking with a friend today, and she said that she knew instantly we were under attack as soon as she saw the first plane had hit. I did too. The President today spoke at the Pentagon, and he said, initial reports were confusing. They were reporting that it was a boiler, and that he realized that boilers were not on the top of buildings but on the bottom, that it was a gas fire, a gas explosion at Windows on the World, but we could see from where the fire was emanating. It wasn't Windows on the World, which was at the very top of the tower. It was about a quarter of the way down. And as soon as I came upstairs, our stairs went up to the second floor, and I could see the television as soon as my head popped up above the floor level. And as soon as I got upstairs, I looked at the television and I saw that smoke. I knew instantly it must have been a jetliner. The report was that it was a small private plane. I said, no small private plane could do that damage. Look at the extent of it. Look at the wingspan. Also, the fire was too much from the fuel that would be carried by a small aircraft. And I said, no, that was a jetliner. But my first words when I saw that tower on fire were, oh my God, what have they done? Because I knew exactly who had done it. People can say, you're profiling, you're jumping to conclusions. But damn it, I was right. And then we saw the second plane hit live, and we knew what was going on. And I remember waiting and watching in confusion to see, what would happen next. And when the Pentagon was hit, I yelled down that we're under attack. This is a wide scale attack. My friend said what surprised her, though, was when the first tower came down. I actually wasn't surprised. My first career ambition was to be an architect, believe it or not. And it's probably why I became a biologist, because I was studying the ultimate architecture, right? But I was 10 years old when the towers opened, and I watched a PBS special on how they were being constructed. It was a novel construction technique that was invented specifically for the World Trade Center. It was a core of elevator shafts, and there were no interior pilings. All the pilings had been moved to the perimeter, and they were attached to the floor with certain bolts. And that is why when the weight became too much, as I knew it would, what was amazing to me was that the structure worked as it was designed. It was specifically designed to withstand the impact of an airplane, just like the Empire State Building had survived the impact of a bomber in the fog in World War II. But there was no bomber that day. It was a beautiful, beautiful late summer day. Up in Boston, the skies were perfectly clear. And the same in New York. 60-mile visibility. This was no accident. And I remember the uncertainty. I remember seeing the president informed. You want to talk about grace under pressure? George W. Bush might have done a lot of things since to have disappointed us or even earned our enmity. But in that moment, I was so glad that Al Gore was not president, because he truly exhibited grace under fire. Didn't want to scare the children. His face didn't portray shock or alarm or panic. It was almost in that instance as if he knew he'd been given a task and he knew exactly what it was that he had to do. And so he excused himself without frightening the children. And he went about securing our government by getting on Air Force One and staying in the air, which is the protocol. And then he addressed us that night. And that day seemed like forever. But the longest part of that day was when I was sitting there on the bed waiting for the towers to come down, as I knew they must. As I've explained many times to people that think it was an inside job, or, all the ridiculous conspiracy theories. Metal expands when it's heated. And you don't need to melt metal in order to weaken it to the point where it no longer has structural integrity. Any blacksmith can tell you that, can demonstrate that to you. All you have to do is to get metal red hot in order for it to lose its ability to support the load for which it was designed. And that is exactly what happened. Jet fuel burned and burned and burned. And finally the metal expanded to the point that it reached a temperature at which it could no longer sustain the load. The structure worked as designed. The structural elements that were taken out, all of the load of the floors above were distributed to the perimeter of the remaining girders. And that is exactly how it was designed to behave. But eventually it became too much. And when the weight of those floors above, that massive weight of the floors above, collapsed onto the first floor, and every floor thereafter collapsed. Bang, 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 all the way down. When the South Tower fell, we were looking at it from the north on TV, down Fifth Avenue. You can look right, stand on Fifth Avenue, and you can see the Empire State Building, and then down to the Trade Center buildings. And you just saw collapse, and you saw smoke. And the announcer says, it looks like a portion of the facade has fallen on the South Tower. So there is no facade on the South Tower. There is only the South Tower. It's a concrete and steel core where the stairwells and the elevator shafts were, and then it was steel perimeter vertical girders, and all tied together with the floor. And it was designed that way so that it could sway in the wind because they were so tall. There's no facade. There was no facade to fall off. What we saw was the South Tower falling, hidden mostly by the North Tower. I remember saying, when asked why I was sitting there, I said, it's like sitting vigil. They're coming down. I was told not to be a defeatist. I said, I'm not being a defeatist, I'm being a realist. They're coming down. There's no way. Based on the design of these buildings, I said, it's amazing that they're up this long. People said, I can't believe the buildings fell. I can't believe they stayed up as long as they did. That was a testament both to the architecture and the engineering that went into constructing them. It's amazing how long they withstood that heat and the weight above. A friend of mine just asked whether the Catholic Church recognized the people that jumped as suicides, and I told him most of those people didn't jump, they were pushed. And they weren't pushed out of malice, they were pushed out of people desperate to get one last lungful of air that wasn't filled with smoke. Can't imagine what it was like to be up there. But I can tell you I was on the pile, next to the pile, overlooking the pile, exactly 3 months to the day afterward, 11 December 2001. I'd gone down to pick up family at the airport, driven down from Boston. They flew in to New York. And I made the time so that I could go visit. And when I came across the White Stone Bridge and I first saw Lower Manhattan, this had been 3 months now. Three months in which to wrap my head around the fact that, as I said when the second tower went down, I put my head in my hands. And I said, I cannot believe they're gone. And the response was, they were just buildings. What about the people? And I looked up incredulously and said, I'm talking about the people. My roommate, the first time I lived in New York, in Regal Park in Queens, my good friend Jeff he worked for Merrill Lynch, and he had been on the trading floor in Merrill in '93 during the bombing there. And he remembered what it was like trying to get down those stairs just from a bombing in the basement. The '93 bombing didn't compare to the 2001 attack in terms of smoke and panic and everything else. He had been moved across West Ave to World Financial Center, which they built after '93. And he told me what it was like that day. How when everybody was trying to get down and jammed in the stairwells and they stood for hours, and it was 10 to 15 minutes to be able to walk down one step. Not one flight of steps, but one step. 15 minutes and you take a step down. He was telling me how firemen were rushing up while they were waiting to come down. And that's what was going through my head. All of those people that must have perished. A lot of people were saved by people who selflessly took others out and then went back up to bring more out. And Dana Perino said that it was the first stand against terrorism by this nation on the flight that crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Ordinary people, regular citizens, not military, moms and dads, husbands and wives. And they did the most American thing of all. They took a vote. When they realized that they were part of what was going on that day, they took the decision to try to make an effort, knowing they probably wouldn't succeed. But they were not going to go down without a fight. And they took a vote. And that was what they voted to do, to fight. I have been aware of what the enemy really is since 1979, when they overthrew the Shah in Iran. Islam is not a religion. Allah is not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not the Father of Jesus Christ, our risen Lord. There is no element of the Holy Spirit in Allah. Allah is a desert moon god. The Kaaba preceded Muhammad by 150 years. Desert pagans who worshipped Allah, the desert moon god, built the Kaaba around a meteorite, and that is what they bow to 5 times a day. There is not one holy site in Islam that is not built atop a pagan or a Jewish or a Christian holy site. Dome of the Rock on Temple Mount, that's not where Muhammad's horses hoof last touched the earth as it carried Muhammad into heaven? No, that is the rock upon which Abraham was going to sacrifice Isaac before the scapegoat was found, with his horns tangled in the bushes. There is not one holy site that is original to Islam. Islam believes that the entire world belongs to Islam. Islam believes that every person born is born a Bullwinkle. That is why they don't say that people convert to Islam. They say that they revert to Islam. But, Timbo, what about my doctor who is a good Muslim? Yeah, well, guess what? Al-Zahiri was a doctor. Chemical Ali was a doctor. Chemical Ali was a pediatrician. If you look, many of the Al-Qaeda leadership were physicians. So you cannot say, but my doctor is a good Muslim. And even if he or she is what we consider a good Muslim, true Muslims consider them to be heretics, apostates, people who are to be murdered. You cannot leave Islam without having a death fatwa put on you. It is not a religion. It is a sick, totalitarian, theocratic cult. Yesterday, they were slicing babies' foreheads with combat knives and with razor blades. There is nothing godly or holy about it. It is a theocratic, totalitarian, political philosophy hell-bent on hegemonic conquering of the entire world. Well, guess what? They used to control Spain. They made it all the way up into France. They made it to Vienna before they were pushed back. It's time to put them back in their box. America is not now, nor ever will it be, part of the Ummah. Someone posted today that Minnesota 5 and Michigan 13 have forgotten. They have not forgotten. They have been conquered. They have been conquered demographically, because that is the jihad that they are waging. It's hijra. It's immigration jihad. Come in, outbreed them, and outvote them. That is their plan. I'm not going to go on and on. You each have your own memories. Had some powerful ones shared. Lilac McFarland posted a beautiful remembrance on Patriot Uprising today. Please go look at that. I do want to show you this, though, because this will tell you everything that you need to know right here. Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri, who was a doctor. Leader urges attacks on the West on 9/11 anniversary. Some people said, but Timbo, we are called to forgive. No, only if, 1, forgiveness is requested, 2, a firm amendment of purpose and action is made. They have neither requested our forgiveness, nor have they indicated any change of heart, any change of strategy, any change of action. They will be my enemy until my dying breath, and I hope that they are yours. I'd like to leave you tonight with a remembrance for all the innocent dead on 9/11, including my friend Mike Simon, who was at Cantor Fitzgerald in the North Tower. God bless you. God bless these United States. Keep fighting the good fight.